Je te souhaite la bienvenue sur mon podcast Off the Mat. Mon intention est de te partager ici les clés précieuses que j'ai reçues du yoga pour apprendre à m'aimer, reprendre confiance en moi, cultiver mon équilibre et ma paix intérieure chaque jour. Je te souhaite la bienvenue chez toi. Yoga has become part of Sara's daily life when in 2011 she signed up for her first yoga classes. Yoga helped her to find peace, but most importantly, to get in touch with herself and get to know herself a bit better. In 2016, 6 months after successfully graduating, Sara began to teach. Today, she's based in Prague, where she was born, and teaches both in person and online. Her classes are a mix of asana practice, pranayama, and meditation techniques, Eastern philosophy, Hindu mythology, chanting, and journaling. Sara's teachings are rooted in her own practice and study of yoga, mindfulness, and self-development. As a student, Sara has one goal: to keep moving closer and closer to truest, deepest self, and to create a safe space where her body, her heart, and her mind can be healthy and thrive. As a teacher, her goal is to guide her students in the same direction. Welcome to the podcast, Sara. I am so blessed and honored to have you here.
Thank you so much for the intro. So my name is Sara, everybody. Hello. Thank you for tuning in. And I'm a yoga teacher. I'm a yoga practitioner. Doing something related to the practice of yoga has been basically the only thing, or like the biggest thing I have been doing in my adult life. I studied business, and I started practicing yoga when I was in my last year of high school as a means of balancing my body. So it was very physical to begin. I used to be a tennis player before, and my body was craving some practice that is kinder to the body. So the first type of yoga I began was Iyengar style, very restorative and, or rather therapeutic, just to bring my body back into balance. And I was not in love with that because I was still a teenager and I wanted to push myself. I'm also very type A personality, and I want to achieve and do, and like there's always this next goal to accomplish. And whenever I accomplish the goal, there is no celebration. There is the next goal to be accomplished after that. So yoga was quite boring for me at the beginning because I did not see, like, what's the point? I'm not accomplishing anything. And like I said, it was Iyengar yoga, which is a beautiful practice of precise alignment and kindness towards the body, so that the asana practice can be therapeutic. But I was not getting it. So I did the practice, and although mentally I felt bored in the class, there was something that kept pulling me back. I somehow loved it at the same time. It was this weird place because I was still in high school, and in high school I was in Slovakia. There is this type of high school experience called gymnasium, which is a little more academically demanding. So I was in that more academically demanding type of education, and I was used to pushing myself there. And then I played tennis and I wanted to push myself there. And then there was yoga, and nobody was pushing me anywhere there. And it was very, gentle. I was 17 or 18, and the average age in the room was at least 50. We were like the youngest people there with my brother. So despite the fact that I was not very excited about it, I kept coming back because it gave me something that nothing else provided to me. It gave me this contentment with less. It gave me safe space to be. It gave me acceptance without needing to prove myself. So I continued practicing yoga also when I started studying business in university. And I remember going to this studio in Vienna, and still I was not getting it. I was a young university student, And I enrolled in this studio because we could enroll there as a part of a university curriculum for a student's price. So it was a good deal. And I remember the teacher there, she wore only purple colors and she was maybe in her 50s or 60s, and she was suspiciously happy. I was like, how is this possible? That is suspicious. She's happy all the time. Or rather, she seems so peaceful all the time and content. So I would take those classes. That was Ashtanga Vinyasa mix, but on the softer end of things. And still, I, I was not head over heels with the practice, but there was something that kept bringing me back to it again and again. So I did that for a couple of years, and then 10 years ago, I was at a retreat with a yoga teacher that I'm sure you know, and many people know, Talia Sutra, who has a very physically, let's say, challenging practice. At least the way she was teaching it back then was, you know, deep asanas, deep back bends. And for me, that was a match. I I completely could relate to that because I was still in this, let's say, performative or achieving mindset. So that's when it just clicked with me and yoga 100%. It was the missing piece of puzzle because I needed the practice to meet me where I am. And I believe that this is the beauty of yoga in its many shapes and shades and colors. It allows the practitioners to meet them where they are at. There is no one teacher, there is no one style of yoga or way of practicing it. Everybody is somewhere else on their journey and they get to connect with it. So this is how I connected. And there was the same year when I decided that I want to do this professionally because, or like I want to do this as my main job, because it's the best thing. Because I feel that it gives me something that I wish I would have been given years earlier. It is a tool or almost a crutch for life. You know, when life brings challenges, yoga is there to hold you. So I had yoga as this support and crutch for all sorts of situations that life presents. And I started to teach also the same year. And I don't know how much in depth you want to go into the whole teaching journey, but this is how I started.
There's something you said that I really, really connected with, and that's the exact thought that I had this morning, actually. Because when I'm on my mat, I'm always like, my mind is going crazy, but I don't try to stop my mind. I just like welcome the thoughts. And there is a thing where I had a friend, she asked me, like, would you recommend a handstand coach? Because I would really like to elevate my handstand practice. And then I told her that thing that you said when you said like yoga meet you exactly where you are. And it's the difference with coaches in like either handstand or contortion, where those coaches are more like from acrobatics or circus, and they are kind of like pushing your body into their own mold instead of adapting the mold to where you are, to your practice and to your body. And I truly love when you shared that.
Yeah, yeah. I really, relate to what you just said. There's a big difference with the yogic approach to things, the mindful approach to things.
Yeah, and that's something that I would love you to clarify on this podcast because, like you're a lot on social media, and I mean, everyone that is listening is somehow to some extent consuming social media. How do you find for yourself, but also in the way you're teaching and the way you're sharing this to your students, that balance between, what society is kind of pushing you to do, maybe using social media or comparing yourself or pushing your body because you're seeing a beautiful image and you want to do exactly the same with your body. But on the other side, I see Sarah as a teacher very devoted to the yogic philosophy. And as you said, like yoga meets you exactly where you are. So how do you manage to find that balance on your mat and also in the way you approach your teaching to your students?
Well, I must say I'm still figuring these things out. I'm figuring them out as I go. And the first thing that popped in my mind as you were asking me the question is that the way I see life is a beautiful gift. You know, I always like to say to myself whenever I start practicing or whenever I wake up that I have this body, you know, I'm blessed with great health. I have two healthy arms, I have two healthy legs, I have a healthy spine. I I have this body, and it would be a dishonor to not use it. It would be a dishonor to not explore, you know, what the body can do. So I really like to see the yoga practice in one of its aspects as an opportunity. Your yoga asana practice is your opportunity to explore what your body can do. It's your opportunity to go beyond your conditioning, you know, of what you think you can do, of what you were told you can do. Oh, you know, you're at this age, you're at this size, you're this and that. So depending on that, you should be able or you should not be able to do this or those kinds of things. And in the asana practice, we get to challenge those. Yeah, those boxes that we and the conditioning from the environment sometimes puts us into. So first and foremost, I see yoga asana practice as the opportunity to really celebrate life through movement and say thank you to life through movement. One of my favorite quotes is not from yoga, it's from Stoicism, from Marcus Aurelius, and he says that a man should not get old without knowing the glory of his youthful body. Like now we are at this age, we're not getting any younger. You'll never be younger than you are right now. You will, you know, as the body with age presents newer challenges, you have to adapt. Now is the best time to explore. Now is the best time to do those crazy asanas. And of course, it's not the entirety of the yoga practice, but it's nice. And that is my reason, or one of my reasons, why I like to challenge myself on the yoga mat with more advanced asanas, whether it be a back bend or a handstand, because that way I get to celebrate what I have, which is this body. And that's why I'm really happy to then see you, Marine, posting your images. And I remember when this was about like standing drop back bend, and then like going into a full wheel where you catch the ankles. And I could do it somehow, you know, on the timeline before you did, and you were inspired by that, but then you like completely like incredibly progressed in your asana practice, and I was focusing on some other things. And I always see your photos and I'm like, wow, like that is, you know, that is possible. And I think that's the beauty of the asana. And then we, of course, have to honor what is true for us in the moment. And at some points and in some chapters of life, what is true is challenging these beliefs regarding to what the body is able or unable to do. And then we can translate these lessons into off the mat life situations when you know that you're able to withstand the discomfort of, let's say, stretching your body into splits or back bends. You know, you can withstand the discomfort of stretching your ability to believe in yourself, for example. You can stretch your discomfort, your ability to, I don't know, face your fears, whether it be trying something new or leaving that relationship that is not healthy for you. Everything, whether physical or mental, we do is growth. With growth, we experience growing pains or discomfort, which is not necessarily wrong sign. And I think seeing that on the mat, knowing that, oh, me feeling uncomfortable in this whatever backbend I'm doing here does not mean it's a bad thing for me to explore. maybe it will, give me something. Maybe it will open me up to something new. And at least the way this helped me was when I was challenging my beliefs um, of like this good girl syndrome or inability to say no, to assert myself. I remember how incredibly hard it was at the beginning to say no and like really stand up for myself when this is what I was learning. And my therapist at the time told me, like it's uncomfortable. Like when you're growing, when you're stretching, it's uncomfortable. And I was like, aha, just like when I stretch physically, it's uncomfortable. Like it's the same thing. We're growing into something new. And yeah, yoga is a celebration.
Yeah, that's very beautiful how you translated the on and off the mat situation where we're kind of experiencing the same things, but and I think that's how yoga is actually transforming your life, is how able you are to translate an asana into a situation in your day-to-day life. And it's very interesting what you brought up about the full wheel, like the grab ankle, because I don't do that one. I injured my shoulder like it was a year and a half ago, maybe. Yeah, I mean, it flew so fast because of course, like overusing the joints and overdoing things that are very advanced. And so I stopped doing those types of poses because I feel I was kind of pushing my body, but I was not realizing that I was pushing my body through that pain. I was like, I used to be able to do it, so why wouldn't have been able to keep doing it, you know? And then recently I got into that shift where I'm like, you know what? It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good right now. Maybe it'll come back, but right now that's not what I'm craving. And I think I had to go back to that yoga philosophy of where, like, like you're not doing contortion, Marine, you're doing yoga. Go back to why you started and why you're doing it every day, and is it worth it? And I think that's also like the big difference between when you do yoga and when you do contortion or handstand, where the intention and the reason why you do something matters, because that's how you are able to make decisions and to switch directions as well in your life. And I wanted to speak about switching directions actually with you. Because I know that, I mean, I'm speaking from my perspective, and I know like everyone that is following you, we see things through a screen. I know you share bits of your stories as well, and bits of the thing that you go through your newsletters and your post also on Instagram. But recently, I feel like you went through a self-reflection process that took you from point A to point B, and I think you're in point B now. But could you share a little bit of that journey, where you came from, and where you feel that you are now?
I must say, I'm still figuring this out very much because I am like, I would say I'm over the big hump of a change, but I'm still sort of integrating how things have shifted and this new arrangement that I'm still figuring out. But let's start with a little backstory of me with my achieving slash overachieving personality. I came from this academically demanding way of spending my days. I studied business, and then also within the family there is this dynamic of constantly doing something. So when I decided to start working as a yoga teacher, I I did it, 200%. Instead of just doing a little bit, I did everything. And there was also this like backdrop motivation, not really healthy, of me needing to prove to my parents that this is a good thing for me to do, because they were a little, um, let's say, I don't want to say unsupportive, because they were always supportive, but they were worried when I decided that I want to be a yoga teacher, because they were not confident that that will be, a way in which I can take care of myself. But for me, it was the best way. And I gave it my all, and I worked very hard and put a lot of work into, yeah, making yoga also a sustainable business, not only this way in which I get to share something I love, not only a way in which I get to contribute to the lives of those in my community, but also I wanted to make it a sustainable business. And so I gave it all, and I thought I needed to do everything, because you're on social media and you see teachers doing gazillion things, and you see, you know, this teacher having their retreats, and then another teacher has their online studio, and then they have their trainings in yoga school, they do festivals, they do workshops, they travel, they do social media, content, collaborations, you know, so much, so many people are doing so many things. And within me, there was this almost need to, I thought that I will be only good enough when I do all of those things, just like they do those things. Back then, I did not really, I think because I was quite quick, like moving quickly, I never really stopped and thought about, or like tuned in what is, like, where is it naturally pulling me. I never try to articulate this, what I'm talking about right now, so I hope I will be making sense. But the way I used to do things before was, I know what my goal is. I have 100% confidence that I can reach my goal, and I will do everything I can in order to reach my goal, whether it be, you know, a retreat, training, yoga school, festival, whatever, it might be a collaboration. It is in my power. I know I can put hard work in, I can do it. So I would hustle quite a lot. Versus now, instead of swimming, you know, against the current sometimes, because in my previous mindset, my efforts would take me against the current where, let's say, life was guiding me. If I imagine life like a river, often in the past, I would try to swim against the current of the river, because I thought that, you know, that is where I need to go. And I thought that working too hard is not a problem. And what I found through burnout, I had quite a serious burnout about 2 years ago or 3 years ago. This was after 7 years of teaching and trying to do all the things I thought I needed to do. And I started experiencing anxiety and panic attacks, and I was just not managing my energy well, because I was on social media and even behind a computer or with computer, phone, electronic devices, being connected to the internet and online world, it takes some energy from you. And then I was also physically with people holding space. And there were some years when I would travel nearly every weekend to some event to teach something. And I thought, I need to do it, everything. I need to do it all. And through this experience of burning out and experiencing panic attacks that led me to canceling some events. And eventually I came to the conclusion that I need to cancel more than than I thought I needed to. It was difficult because I thought that it was my responsibility to do all of those things. I thought it was also a way in which I was kind of proving my own worth. At that time when I was going through this period, I discovered, as I was canceling some events and suddenly had free time, I started to question my worth. Like, am I worthy without doing all of these things? Am I worthy if I just allow myself to be and exist and breathe air for free? So it was a big journey of me being content with who I am without needing to prove myself, without needing to prove my worth. Me knowing that I'm valuable and that I can, you give value, help people, even just by my presence without necessarily hustling super hard. So that led me to slowly rearranging things. And this year, or rather last year in summer, it was a process of many, many months, because it was still difficult to, close all of the projects that I was involved in. But I felt that it is time that I take a step back, and I decided to cancel most of my in-person events, and also a big chunk of my online work. And really, instead of hustling hard and swimming against the current that I was talking about, I started to slow down and tune into where the river of life is taking me. And I discovered that quite a lot can be done and accomplished in great alignment with myself, with my energy, and with great alignment with something, let's say, higher, when I just pause, reflect, and kind of tune in where life is taking me. Ask myself, what is it that I can be doing today? And it opened my eyes in many ways. I started to see myself differently. I started to see also the way I am in the world as a person who wants to, be of service. And I found out that there are so many ways to be of service. And a big point for me was a realization that I constantly try to be of service to other people that are not my family or not my closest circle. And I decided that I want to give my closest ones most of my energy, or like the energy that I was giving others back then. So yeah, that's kind of where it all took me. So now I'm focused more on taking it slow, and tuning myself in, tuning in more with myself, and also with like the larger way of how things are working and moving, because I believe there's a place for everyone, there's a role for everyone, there's a need for everyone. And I found, or I reflected, that often I was trying to do more than what I was maybe supposed to do or asked to do.
I feel like we have a same type of personality where, like we're kind of like running after something, but we don't really know what we're running after. We just know like there is a list of things to tick, and then we just want to have them all ticked. And I can relate so much to that thing that you shared, like, okay, some teachers are doing workshops, they're doing like retreats, they're doing like all of the things. So it means that because I'm also a yoga teacher, that I need to be doing all of the things. And like I got my two retreats canceled this year. I feel like I didn't choose to cancel them, but I feel, and that's what I tell the girls that were coming to the retreat, like I feel that it was a call from the universe, that it was best for me not to happen, because inside this was not right. But it's really hard, especially when you evolve in the online world, to let go, because you feel so seen, you know what I mean? And you face that as a filler instead of, well, what is success to me? Like redefine what success mean to you, and then you can align your actions and you can live a life that is aligned with your true purpose. But of course, Sarah and I are sharing this, but there's so many challenges, and as you said, like we never really figure out everything. Like I feel, and tell me if I'm wrong, but you've stepped into a new chapter of your life, but this is not the last chapter. I feel like as I see life, it's not a flat road. It's not oh, I made a mistake in the past, now I am in the right direction. Maybe in a couple of years, a couple of months, you'd be like, you know what? No, actually, this is another direction that I want to take. And it doesn't mean that, in my opinion, that the past choices that you made were wrong.
Absolutely, absolutely. because without the past choices, you wouldn't be the person that you are right now. Everything that you have done and decided to do, every decision you have made, somehow contributed to you being who you are in this current state where you get to have those, let's say, reflections or those thoughts and those longings to maybe change some things.
Yeah, and like, okay, some people that are a little bit more balanced that we are, but we live very much in our white and black areas. Um, both both of us, we need to kind of burn out to understand where our limitations are and what we want to do and what we don't want to do. I'm the same as you. Like, I have to experience what a retreat is. I have to experience what a workshop is. I have to experience what an online studio is to then figure out the things that I want to do. And I feel like from what you were sharing, I feel like you had to kind of go through that phase in order to know, okay, now I know who I am. I am a fast mover. I am an overachiever. And I feel like I want to lean back into my feminine and be more connected to myself and find more joy in spending time with my family, all the things that I've been here the whole time, but you didn't give enough credit to that.
Absolutely. And I'm so happy that you mentioned the word feminine because I feel like it's an important piece of the puzzle that we are building here. And really seeing that the world at large is moving more in a masculine way. And masculine approach to things is the thing that gets acknowledged and celebrated and rewarded. And being in the feminine does not always get that same sort of recognition. So it is really easy for both men and women to be in this constant chase of something. And that's why we have, thankfully, Eastern philosophies that teach us that it is not, the only way to do life, and that teach us to slow down and reflect. And I think, honestly, at least the way I've been thinking, because I've been questioning very many things, and even my love, let's say, I know I have not been questioning my love for yoga, but my narrow vision with yoga and really seeing that one practice. I was so happy when I discovered it, and also its philosophy, because it's a philosophy that talks about all aspects of life, that gives advices to all aspects of life. And I thought, okay, now when I'm here, after I have found this philosophy, it will give me answers for everything, and it will challenge me, and it will, help me grow. And what I'm also learning right now, that even without philosophies, even without following particular paths, life itself is the process of growing. Like you don't have to challenge yourself or make yourself suffer. Life is going to make you suffer in a way. Life is going to present challenges, and you get to grow through that. So yeah, that has been one of my recent, let's say, or semi-recent realization, slowly stepping back and opening my eyes more. I used to be quite committed, let's say, to my practice in a very structured way. So I would do my meditation for X amount of minutes every day, and I would do my asana, and I would do my reading of scriptures. And now I'm experimenting with different way of practicing spirituality, which is ultimately what yoga practice is about. Yes, it is a practice that has some physical practices and exercises, but ultimately it is a practice of connecting with something larger than our individual selves. It is a spiritual practice at its core. And I found that we don't have to practice spirituality formally, which I thought was impossible. I thought there needs to be a formal, proper way to do everything, but really just being slow, being present, and reflecting, just like you reflected on the 2 canceled retreats, that itself can be a deep practice of of learning about yourself and learning about life and growing.
I was wondering, how do you use your journaling practice, if you still do, in your daily lives? Because I For me, journaling is something that I found maybe 1 to 2 years ago, like really deeply, and that have really transformed my days, like practically like my days, both in terms of productivity, but also in terms of like, setting your intention for the day. You wake up every morning, you know how you feel, you know what you need and what you can do. What do you journal? Like, what is your journaling practice?
Thank you for talking about journaling. It's one of my favorite practices. Currently, I journal mostly, I ask myself questions and I give myself answers. Yeah, I practice journaling as a way of getting the answers out of myself, because when you put pen down on paper, you are slowing down the train of thoughts. And when I try to give or like find answers within myself without writing, it sometimes can get a little, depending on the day, but very often I can get lost in thoughts because they can happen very, very fast. But when I start writing things down, then I am in a slower pace and I can arrive at those answers. So now, for the past year or two, my journaling practice has mostly been me asking myself whatever question is alive for me in that moment, and then giving myself answer. And it is my favorite practice for getting getting in touch with the wisdom or with a voice within. I used to journal differently. I used to journal when I started. That was in 2014, my first journal, and I was again going through a big shift, big change, and needed to talk about my feelings, and that felt like the safest way to express what was going on within me. So it was a lot about emotions. Today I'm feeling this, it is pointing me to that, etc., etc. Then I started to journal with prompts, and I shared also that with the community in my ebook and printed journal, where I present different sort of prompts that can point directions. Instead of you asking yourself question, there is a question proposed, and these prompts help you to dig maybe into places that you didn't know existed or places that feel uncomfortable. So I did that for many years, and now, yeah, for the last couple of years, it's been mostly me asking myself questions. It's a dialogue between myself in my everyday life, let's say in the functional mode, and the higher self, if you will, or like the self that is not necessarily tangled in the everyday stuff, but a self that gets to is deeper within and, let's say, more connected.
I think journaling takes a lot of courage, especially when you're starting journaling. And I know, like, I'm always like sharing about journaling because I'm just like you, like, it's so impactful, it's so powerful. It feels just, and especially for people that are very controlling as we are, it's a matter to kind of let go and to allow yourself to kind of publicly express, because when you're putting things out there, even though no one's reading them, no one's is listening to you, it still take a lot of like courage to have that out of you. And I know also like a lot of my students struggle to get started. What is an advice you would give to someone that would come to you and say, look, Sarah, like you really inspired me to start journaling, but you really, I don't know. I have no clue of where to start or how to start. Because I think, like the biggest challenge is not really what am I going to talk about, is letting go of that feeling of feeling, completely ridiculous or ashamed of what's gonna come out. So how do you pass through that feeling?
I think the most important thing is making journaling a safe practice. So maybe discussing if that is a topic, if you live with other people, maybe setting a boundary there, saying that this is my journal, like it's a hard boundary. Nobody gets to look inside of that because it will be a violation of my privacy. I found, at least for myself, for example, when I still live with my parents, I wouldn't journal because yeah, because the privacy was not respected in that way. So I believe, yeah, setting those boundaries around who can read that, and hopefully nobody, so that you know that this is a safe space to express whatever is alive for you in that moment. And then making it a ritual, making it a habit. Before it gets easy, it is a little hard, and that is true for everything. Asana practice, you have to push yourself at the beginning, a little meditation. You have to convince yourself to sit down. Journaling, you need to practice it a couple of times and go through, oh, this is weird, I don't understand this is ridiculous phase. You have to show up a couple of times until you find that sort of connection, until you find the thread that you can touch or hold that will then help you journey through your inner realms. So making it a habit, make it comfortable. Maybe, you know, I would suggest going to a place where you can be undisturbed. Maybe it is a place at home, but maybe it is a place where you can experience more anonymity, like at a cafe, you know, so there is a like a little white noise, strangers around you, and you are there to do your journaling practice. Know that this is like, you don't have to arrive at an answer, and you don't have to begin at the beginning. Like, it doesn't have to begin at the beginning, and you don't have to continue until the end. This is just little snippets from your subconscious, from your inner realms, getting tattooed on paper, basically. And
Yeah. You know, I think it's another type of practice that really helps us to let go of structure.
yeah, and it can be really difficult. Like, even within yoga, there is so much structure, like depending on what kind of yoga you do, but even the word yoga itself, you know, to yoke, like the first usages of the word yoking were to yoke the horses. Like, there is so much like binding discipline, which is so necessary for growth. But it's not the only way, you know. Through I believe, at least, like, you can accomplish so much through discipline, and you also need letting go. You also need like letting loose, being lost. You need to not make sense. You need to not arrive anywhere. All of these, you need to make mistakes, be confused. All of these are part of the image, part of the puzzle.
And to challenge, you know, to challenge those structures, because I think a structure is necessary to understand and to read the world. But it's about not getting stuck in that structure and understanding that there are so many ways of practicing yoga, of approaching life, or just leaving a relationship, or experiencing a practice, and all of the things. It comes back to what you were sharing about. I'm a yoga teacher, so I have to do workshops, I have to do retreats, I have to do all of the things, because the definition of being a yoga teacher is this. But actually, there is so many other ways to redefine yourself as a yoga teacher, and also as a person, that's for sure.
Everybody is unique. Everybody has their own flavor. Like, there is no one blueprint how to be human or how to be yoga teacher. There is no one right way. There is as many ways as there are people. So you don't need to fit into anybody's box, and yeah, only your own.
Being online, because I feel like it has become so prominent after the pandemic, of course, like during and then after now, like for myself, for instance, like as I'm experiencing it right now, I mean, I've always had pretty much of a healthy relationship with social media. I've always been able to step back whenever I felt like I could be triggered or burnout, or if I catch myself like comparing myself, because we all do. But I feel like there has been like a huge peak, and now there is some sort of a like maybe a peak, but on the other direction.
Yeah, the online world. I'm very grateful that being online is an option. Obviously, it has its challenges or setbacks, and also what you described, the fluctuations of social media, and sometimes people are more online, like during pandemics, then they're less, then something is trending that happens to align with what you're doing, then this other thing is trending. Now we have Pilates taking the scene. So what do we do as yogis? Do we rebrand? Yeah, honestly, um, yeah, I think social media was the most challenging for me when I started, and it was about 10 years ago because it was new, and the Instagram, I was growing followers, and that impacts the nervous system or the psyche in a certain way. So I remember when I started, I would check my phone first thing in the morning, how people followed me and how many people unfollowed me, and I was happy or sad depending on what happened there. And then I saw how much, it moves me, and I I changed my relationship with that. Now I see it as a tool. I see it as a way of connecting with people. I see it as a way of sharing my message, and I see it as not the only way of sharing my message. Um, I, when I, let's say, quote unquote, suffered, or when I felt not good on social media, specifically Instagram, because I think that's what we are talking about right now, right? Like there are those fluctuations. Um, I just look at I look at those people who are receiving the message, and like maybe it's not, the same number of likes or follows or views or whatever as before, but I see that there are still people to connect with. There is still somebody who resonates with what I'm sharing, and I believe I believe there is an abundance, for everybody. There are enough people to learn from everybody. Yes, there are many yoga teachers coming, but like I said before, we're all different. The way Sarah teaches is different than what Marine teaches. My personality, although we have some overlaps, is different than your personality. We each are going to speak to different groups of people, and I see there's a good thing that there are more and more yoga teachers because they can speak to more and more people, and then we can get more people to do this practice, which ultimately is beneficial for everybody. So I think saying to myself and like recognizing there is really no competition, and like being true to my intention, to my purpose. For example, I again, another thing that I have not articulated since I started like applying it in my life, but this is one of the things, for example, that I have been living now recently. I have a yoga app, a subscription platform for yoga videos and classes and so on, Sati Studio. And I thought I also have a YouTube channel, but I have not really been attending to my YouTube channel. And I thought when I share classes for free on YouTube, I'm going to sabotage my yoga app, and I need to really, like make people pay for the classes they are taking with me. And then I caught myself and I was like, I realized that this is such a scarcity mindset. Um, I don't need to try to squeeze, um, money out of everything. What I want, it made me question what is my original intention with the yoga studio app that I have. And the original intention is to have community and offer yoga classes. I love offering yoga classes online because it allows me to work in a way that is comfortable for me at my own time and at my own pace when I feel good, and I don't have to, push myself, as was the case often when I was doing in-person events, which I'm taking break from right now. And I just caught myself seeing that, I'm having such a scarcity mindset, and I'm so disconnected from my intention because of fear that I will have less when I offer more for free. And like, it's not true. It doesn't have to be true. So I challenged that belief and I started to upload regular videos on YouTube. And I believe that, those people who need to find me and practice with me on the yoga app will find me and practice with me on the yoga app. And those people who need to practice on YouTube will practice with me on YouTube, and there is enough. And actually, what I saw was in numbers that it did not sabotage anything. Like the main point is to serve, right? Is to contribute, is to share, is to be a channel. Though I don't really like the word, I like to be a tunnel or a vessel for something, for experience, for things that I have learned or figured out, or that have been passed down onto me through my teachers, to pass them on to other people who may benefit from the practices. And when I'm in anxiety and fear that I will not have enough when I serve and offer for free, and like, of course, you need to know your value and value your services and so on. You need to, do that. But now that we're talking about online, just don't look at the numbers. I think that's like the ultimate answer. Like, yes, we need to look at the numbers sometimes to make business smart decisions, because we're also business owners. But again, at least what has been very alive for me and working for me recently is like taking it back to the intention and having this unshakable faith and belief that there is enough, and there is enough for me, and it will be all fine.
Yeah, it's very much about letting go of that greediness to get more and more, because it's the problem. I would say, like, the problem when you're mixing a passion or a job that is supposed, like, I would love also to live in this world where you can give everything for free and you can receive everything for free. But at some point you also need to find that balance between, I need to make a living and I want to serve also, and I want to give for free. And I've also learned that throughout the years and the experience of being online, of like, okay, this I can give that for free because I don't need more. I have my community, I have my girls, I have my online studio. Do I actually need more? Like, maybe I'm gonna be making a little bit more money, but is it really gonna change anything in the way I experience life and in my happiness overall? But that's why, like, being online is such a challenging job, honestly. Especially, like, again, when your job is, you want to give love to people, and you don't want to have them pay for that.
Like you said, it's a delicate balance of being of service and then knowing your worth, and offering some stuff for those who want to consume it through YouTube, or let's say, or like whatever free platform. But then also having some offerings that have a set price that can yeah, help you secure yourself.
Yeah, and like, it's not even like, in my opinion, it's not as a student or as you would call a client. When you start paying for something, it also means that you're committing and you're like devoting yourself into taking care of yourself, into a journey, into being a part of something that is bigger. And I also totally understand that it's not the place for everyone to be in. Like, maybe you just want to move here, but that's how I try, like, to tell myself, because I upload a lot of classes on YouTube as well, and I'm like, like, a lot of people just need to have a little bit of movement, and you're just giving that to them. They don't want to perform anything, they just want to feel good. And how beautiful it is to just be able to give that to maybe hundreds of people. Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a healthy, way of looking at things. And yeah, like you said, having this also money exchange, or like energy for money, classes for money exchange, gives the student, it's like marking a ticket, like, yes, I'm doing this, you know?
And also, like, if in my hands, it has helped me a lot in kind of healing my relationship with kind of money, and like understanding that money is not something that you need in abundance, because abundance is found somewhere else. I wanted to finish this episode with one last question for you. And I wanted to ask you, who or what, it can be a ritual, a person, someone you know, or someone you don't know personally, that is inspiring you in your journey since day one, and that is still inspiring you in your journey? Or maybe there is no one, or maybe you've changed, but something or someone that is keeping you accountable in this journey.
That's a really good question. I do not have a clear answer because for a long time on my yoga journey, I have been looking for that one teacher, like guru, if you will, but like that one teacher, like, oh, that is my teacher. I'm their student. And what I found is that there are so many beautiful teachers, and I have studied with many beautiful teachers. So I don't think there is necessarily a person. I think my students, honestly, like I think my students, like people who practice with me, people who trust me in guiding them, that's my forever the biggest motivation to study and to do my own practice. Because often as students ask you questions, you don't know the answers to them. You get to work with people who are so different than you, or who have their own unique life experience, and it makes me stretch my perception and see how different people are. And it allows me also to understand myself. Often really students that I get to practice with open my eyes to something that I have not seen within me. They open my eyes to something in the world. So the people that practice with me, forever my biggest inspiration. Yeah, I have learned so much from my students, and I had some of my favorite memories I've ever made from from this dynamics of being a teacher, and a student, and having a student. And often my students brought me to other teachers. Often my students are yoga teachers themselves, so like really there is no hierarchy, but me being able to be a yoga teacher and share it with others, and then having others show up, is the best gift, I think, and the biggest learning. It's an ego check also for me, and it's humbling. And yeah, I think since day one, just recently I was thinking about my first student. I found my old iPad from back in days when I started teaching, and my first student is this Venezuelan guy, Luis, and he asked me to teach before I had my teacher training, and I had no idea what I was doing, but he trusted me, and that was like, like without him and without people to show up, I would not be able to do what I love so much. So I think the students, 100%.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for taking all that time to share your beautiful story and all those inspiring words and rituals. I'm so blessed to have you.
Thank you so much.